I get a lot of questions from our Legal AF audience. Why does it matter, Popok? Why do all these lawsuits brought by public interest groups and states and attorneys general and Democracy Forward and ACLU, why do they matter? Because we're going to lose at the Supreme Court. No. It matters, and I'm going to use as an example a ruling by Judge Freidrich, a Trump-appointed judge in the District of Columbia, in which she entered a preliminary injunction a couple of days ago against the Trump administration in favor of the National Endowment for Democracy, an entity created by Congress to promote democracy worldwide. And it's hundreds of millions of dollars allocated for that purpose. Trump administration hates that purpose, wants to hollow out diplomacy. You see how it failed in Alaska just in the last couple of days because they don't understand diplomacy. But Judge Freidrich's injunction, as of right now, has not only not been appealed by the Trump administration, but they've released $100 million to the National Endowment for Democracy since the injunction was entered. There are times when we win. There are times when the Trump administration backs down. There are billions of dollars that have been released in education funding, in National Endowment for Democracy funding, and other funding. Now, that doesn't hit the front page. That's why we want to cover it here. All people want to focus on, oh yeah, but when it gets to the Supreme Court, but most cases don't get to the Supreme Court. Most cases live or die at the district court, trial court level in federal court, or at the level of appeal one above that. And we are winning by and large. And this is a great example, the Judge Freidrich case, about why it matters that we're in the trenches filing these cases and covering these cases. I'm Michael Popok. We got to win. We need to celebrate it. And it's a blueprint for the future. You're here on Legal AF Sunday. First video. Let's get down to what just happened because it's that important. I just had Rob Bonta, the Attorney General for California, the largest Attorney General's office, on with me on a series of interviews. We've been running them since Friday. And Rob, who's also on the executive committee of the Democratic Attorneys General Association, DAGA, reminded everybody why the 23 Democratic Attorneys General who are joining together and filing these lawsuits, and they're winning at a 90% rate, why it matters. Because there are cases in which they not only win, but the Trump administration folds. We just saw the Trump administration fold late on Friday at the hearing about the DC police takeover, when a federal judge and Judge Reyes told them after about an hour and a half of a hearing, they're going to lose. They are not allowed to federalize or take over the police department in the District of Columbia under a law called the Home Rule Act and Congress's powers alone to legislate in the District of Columbia. And seeing the writing on the wall and the judge about to put pen to paper, forget about writing on the wall, the judge about to put pen to paper in an order against them, they folded. And now DC police is back in the hands of the mayor and the police chief instead of in the hands of some phony acting police commissioner appointed by Pam Bondi. See, it matters. They fold. See, they came out of the box, the Trump administration, and they came out of the box with a shock and awe, full court press approach, right? That's why there was hundreds of executive orders in the beginning, figuring that we would not be able to man-to-man cover this for democracy in the courtrooms. Wrong. Because the attorneys generals were ready, 23 of them. The ACLU was ready. Democracy Forward, which has a playlist here on Legal AF. Democracy Forward was ready. Democracy Now was ready. All of these groups, all these law firms stepped forward instead of stepped back, ran into the burning building of democracy instead of running away from it as the first responders. And we're seeing the results now, 90% winning rate at the trial court level, including in front of Trump-appointed judges. Sure, there are losses, and I cover them. You know, we just had a loss because two Trumpers got together on the DC appellate court and decided to give Trump a couple of wins recently, including about the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. But we got a major win here by Judge Freidrich against the Trump administration, and they folded, and they're releasing the $95 million necessary to continue to run the National Endowment for Democracy. You're here. I think you want to be here. Hit the free subscribe button. Help us continue to grow this pro-democracy channel. Come over to Legal AF, the Substack, and do the same thing, and you really want to help us, hit the paid button. I think it's a cup of coffee a month. You're going to get some amazing content on Legal AF Substack, including live interviews, and other written content, and all the filings like these only on Legal AF Substack. All right, let's get to what happened with Daphne Friedrich. She doesn't always vote against or rule against Trump, but she did now. National Endowment for Democracy is a private organization created by Congress to encourage free and democratic institutions throughout the world through private sector initiatives which promote individual rights and freedoms, internationally recognized human rights, which are essential to the functioning of democratic institutions. Do you see why Donald Trump hates this entity? He's against democratic institutions. He's against human rights. He's against anything that's not a deal making that's going to make him money. That's why he just failed in Anchorage, Alaska against Putin. Putin ate his lunch. The winner gives the winner's speech. Putin gave the winner's speech. He hates diplomacy. That's why Donald Trump hollowed out the State Department. That's why he got rid of U.S. aid, global aid to help people in a humanitarian way, to turn them towards the U.S. democracy and away from the Russians and the North Koreans and the Chinese and the rest and the Iranians. Donald Trump hates all of that. So, of course, he wanted to cut the umbilical cord or the fuel line between this entity created by Congress, funded by Congress, and this entity's ability to operate. So on a yearly basis, they have 2,000 non-governmental projects, NGO projects, in 100 countries, fostering the U.S. interest the long-term U.S. interest in fostering stability, countering authoritarian influence, and reducing the drivers of extremism and migration. Page 2 of her order. You see why Donald Trump hates this organization? This organization should be aligned against Donald Trump and his authoritarian influence, his extremism, his migration, and instability creation. Sounds like an organization that, if it wasn't in America, funded by Americans, would be focused on Donald Trump's administration. Congress funded it, as the judge said on page 2 of her order, through the annual appropriations. In 1982, they set up that they're going to fund this every year. On page 3 of her order, she says in fiscal year 2024, Congress appropriated $315 million for the endowment's use. $315 million. At the end of 2025, the endowment began encountering difficulties in accessing its money. I wonder why. I wonder what happened at the end of January 2025 that would have impacted their ability to draw down on funds appropriated by Congress. Oh, right, the Trump administration. It did not receive its roughly $97 million routine drawdown request from the Treasury. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, Donald Trump's henchman for all things cutting of funding, right? And an additional obligation of $72 million. So on March 5th, after waiting around for 3 months for their $97 million, they filed their lawsuit. And the judge observed slow walking of disbursements, basically trying to put this endowment, for democracy of all things, on life support. And again, I want to make it clear, it's not an endowment for the Democratic Party, even though it has democracy in the title. It supports democracy, the values of democracy around the world, in making all sorts of grants, including its core institutes, the International Republican Institute, the National Democratic Institute, and the Center for International Private Enterprise and Solidarity Center. So everybody gets an institute. Republicans and Democrats. So Friedrich enters the preliminary injunction. She finds that it is a likelihood of success on the merits for the endowment, that there has been a violation of the act that Donald Trump is supposed to be faithfully executing, that he can't just steal their money from them. It violates the Administrative Procedures Act. It violates the Anti-Deficiency Act. And again, she talks about the $95 million that they should be allowed to draw down. So guess what? After Judge Freidrich entered this order and refused to stay her order to give the Trump administration time to seek an appeal, and she ordered no bond be posted by the endowment, guess what happened next? Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice and the rest announced that the $95 million was going to be released. So here's what the Department of Justice then said. It was expeditiously making available the $95 million in congressionally approved funding for the National Endowment for Democracy. That's a win. It's a win that gets little reported. Everybody talks about the injunction, and then you slap your forehead and you tap and you bang your head. What does it matter? What is it? It matters. It matters. That's why look, I would cover it one way or the other. I don't blow smoke or sunshine. I'm going to tell you what's happening. But this is the reason that we have to run into the burning building of democracy to save it. Not stand on the sidelines and watch it burn with peanuts and go, well, there's not enough water. They'll just tear it down anyway. We can't have a defeatist attitude. We're not a party in exile. We're not a fair-minded people in exile, right? We're in defiance. We have to shove back against Donald Trump's instincts. And even he knows he can't win all of these cases, and then he won't win all of these cases, even at the United States Supreme Court. Even if we only win 20% at the United States Supreme Court, we have to fight to win that 20%. Most cases, I'll end it this way, most cases in America, justice is done at the trial court level, where tens of thousands of cases are filed state and federally every year. Then it's a funnel. Very few cases, 10%, 20%, tops, end up at the first level of appeal in a state or federal court system. That's it. And then from there, it's a infinitesimal 0.001% that ends up at the United States Supreme Court. They only take, even if you add in the shadow docket, and we need to add in the shadow docket and the emergency applications by Donald Trump. Let's just make it, I'll do it on the high side. 100 cases total end up at the United States Supreme Court. 60 regular appeals and let's say 40 emergency applications. That's 100 out of 10,000 cases that were below. Right now, there are over approaching 500 cases in 7 months against the Trump administration, right? There's 50 injunctions pending right now. Not all of them have been appealed. Some Donald Trump abandons and doesn't even appeal at all. And that should give you encouragement. That should make you sleep better at night. And we're going to cover it all right here on Legal AF. I'm glad you're here on Sunday morning on Legal AF. We've got so many great things for you. And we got Legal AF Substack. I'm really focused on Legal AF Substack as well. Because here, these are static videos, which I'm so glad you're here on this channel, working together side by side. We will overcome the Trump administration. But kind of on real time, at the moment, content and videos and lives, I got to do that on Legal AF Substack. I can't do lives on YouTube that way. I can do lives several times a day, and I do now on Legal AF Substack. Right now, it's open to free membership. But soon I'm going to have special content only for paid members. Now's the time to help us. It's about a cup of coffee at Starbucks a month to be a paid member of Legal AF Substack. Come on over there and help us continue to grow that as well. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.